It was just a painting. A medium-sized landscape in an old wooden frame. A cliff kissed by golden sunlight. Dense green forests tumbling down into a misty gorge. And right at the center, a waterfall, mid-motion, frozen in the soft haze of afternoon. I bought it for $20 at a garage sale. No haggling. No second thoughts. The painting took my attention from all second-hand goods that lined up there. Tucked in a dusty corner. The frame was chipped, the glass missing, but the image inside. It stopped me. Peaceful. Serene. Beautiful. It has no label. No artist signature. Just undescribed beauty. I thought it would bring some calm into my apartment. Hung it on the wall above my couch, hoping it might bring a little stillness to my otherwise chaotic life. A window to nature in the middle of a city box. A reminder to breathe. And for a while, that's all it was. A beautiful thing. A quiet thing. I didn't know then. Some art doesn't just ask to be looked at. Some art doesn't want to be seen. It wants to be heard. Life was hectic. The kind of hectic where days blurred together. Long hours. Overtime. Stress. Mind wanders to the emails bleeding into midnight, takeout left cold on the counter, alarms ringing far too soon after restless sleep. I barely had time to cook, let alone decorate. But the painting. It found its place easily. The painting found its home on my living room wall. It centered above the couch in my tiny living room. It was the only splash of nature in a world of gray walls and buzzing screens. Greens and golds, still and bright, like it refused to dim with the rest of the apartment. When I came home late, too tired to think, I'd sometimes pause in front of it. Drop my bag, stand there and just look. Just me, and that painted cliff, and the sound of my own breath slowing down. Oddly, I started hearing things. Not voices. Sounds. A soft breeze. The hush of water falling in the distance. Gentle, rhythmic. Soothing, like a white noise machine buried beneath the silence. It wasn't loud. It didn't interrupt. Soft, natural. Almost like a white noise machine left running. It almost blended with the hum of the city outside. I told myself it was nothing. Exhaustion. Wishful thinking. Maybe I just wanted to hear it, to pretend that painting really was a window, and that somewhere beyond it, the world was quiet and clean. I chalked it up to exhaustion. After a while, it calmed me. So I let it be. But, after days passed, the sounds grew clearer. No longer just whispers of wind or imagined rushes of water. They began to take shape. A breeze that rustled what shouldn't move. A hush too fluid, too wet, to come from the pipes. I'd pause, remote in hand, TV muted, trying to trace it. Check the windows. The hallway. The vents. Nothing. I'd hear them even when the apartment was silent. When I left the fan off at night. And yet, the sounds persisted. Even came back stronger when the apartment was still the following days. Especially near midnight. That's when the silence would shift into something else. The air felt different. Like walking into a room where someone had just been arguing. Thick. Unsettled. One night, as I turned off the lights, I heard it. A sound that didn't belong. And one other night, I heard someone was crying. Soft. Muffled. The kind of cry you don't hear from your neighbors, or on TV. Raw, distant, but close enough to feel. It echoed faintly across the room, as if it bled from the walls or from a corner just out of view. I froze. I stood frozen in the dark, barely breathing. Every instinct screamed for reason. Old plumbing, tired ears, stress. Anything reasonable and realistic. But logic had no place in that moment. Not with the way the hairs on my arms stood up. Not with how cold the air had suddenly become. I didn't sleep that night. Despite strange things happened, the painting still hung above the couch. Unchanged. Same brushstrokes. Same colors. Still the same cliff, same forest, same waterfall, but something in the room had shifted. The air around it felt colder. Heavier. After that, I started going to bed early. Turned on noise machines, left music playing. Drank a little more than I should. Anything to drown it out. Whatever it was. Because I didn't know where the sound came from. Only that it came closer when the world went quiet. Weeks passed. I learned to avoid being alone near midnight. I kept lights on. Played music. Pretended nothing was wrong. Then came the night I hosted a small get-together. Just 5 of us from work. Laughter echoed through the apartment, clinking glasses, cheap jokes, and the low hum of jazz playing in the background. For the first time in days, the apartment felt normal. Warm. Alive. Until it wasn't. It was close to 11:30 when the change came. Not suddenly, gradually, like a slow breath being held too long. The first thing I noticed was the cold. Not the kind that comes from an air conditioner. This was deep. Penetrating. Biting chill that crawled under your clothes and sat on your bones. The kind of cold that made your joints ache and your teeth set. It crept into the room like fog, settling between us. Conversations faltered. The room quieted. One colleague rubbed their arms, muttering, "Why does it feel like we're outside?" Another frowned, turning down the music. They swore they heard water. While we distracted by the sounds of the waterfall, then we all heard it. Crying. Clearer than ever. A woman's voice. Broken. Desperate. Not screaming. Not whispering. Crying with ragged and hollow sound. Grieving. Weeping, a raw, endless grief that filled the apartment like smoke. The lights dimmed slightly. Flickered. The temperature dropped another degree. Someone stood to leave. A nervous joke on their lips. But as they reached the door, they froze. Pale in their mid-step. One hand hovering just inches from the knob. Their eyes wide. Their lips trembling. I can't move, they whispered. Their hands shook like it pressed against something unseen. And the lights flickered more. No one else dared move. The sound of crying grew louder, echoing from nowhere and everywhere at once. Behind walls. Beneath the floor. Inside us. We turned to the painting. And it had changed. Someone gasped, but no one screamed. There was no room for fear that loud. Only dread. The landscape had changed. The once verdant cliffside was soaked, stained with red. Not splashed or painted, but soaked, as if the very ground had bled. The bright sky above had darkened into an oozing, inky blackness, like oil smeared across glass. And at the cliff's edge. A figure. Small. Distant. Kneeling. Head in hands. Still. Mourning. We stood frozen, 5 statues in a room that no longer felt like my own. The crying wouldn't stop, not until we had heard all of it. It wrapped around us, thick and heavy. As if the room itself demanded we bear it. Witness it. Share it. We were trapped. Listening. Forced to bear the weight of her sorrow. Time lost all meaning. Seconds stretched. Minutes unraveled. Every moment felt like hours. Until, finally, silence returned. As quickly as it came. The sound stopped. Silence crashed back into the room like a wave. No sobs. No wind. No cold. But none of us spoke. No one laughed again. And no one could sleep that night. Not after what we saw. Not after what we heard. The phenomenon didn't stop. It came in waves. Not every night, but often enough to unnerve me. To break my sense of safety. The crying would return at midnight. So would the wind. The chill, the sense that the air in the room wasn't just air anymore, but a presence. And worse. The painting began to change. Sometimes I'd wake in the middle of the night to find it slightly different. A new shape on the cliff. The trees bending a different way, as if blown by a stronger gust. A smear of red where there hadn't been before. It wasn't static anymore. It was telling a story, inch by inch. And I was watching it unfold. Whether I wanted to or not. I needed answers. I returned to the house where I'd bought it, a modest, two-story place with peeling paint and wind chimes on the porch. The woman who had sold me the painting, small, gray-haired, gentle-eyed, blinked in confusion when I asked. "No, dear," she said slowly. "I never sold any paintings. Just old furniture. Some lamps. A box of old kitchenware. No art. None that I remember." Her expression darkened with concern when I pressed. I left more unsettled than ever. So I asked around the neighborhood. Most people didn't remember the painting. But one retired man, watering his plants next door, paused when I mentioned the scene. He disappeared inside and returned with an old photo, faded, curled at the edges. A photo he'd taken decades ago on a trip, of a cliff near a forest with a waterfall. Same landscape. A cliff, towering above a dense green forest. A waterfall spilling over into mist. It was the same exact place. The same view, same angle, like someone had painted the photo itself. That place was real. He looked at me gravely. He told me it was a remote spot near a hiking trail, back in '87. It's a remote spot now. Hiking trails mostly abandoned. Then he hesitated. There was an accident there once. Or, maybe not an accident. Someone jumped. They never found the body. Only the shoes, and a note. No name. No closure. Just grief, hanging like mist in the trees. That night, I knew what I had to do. I printed the photo and traced the hiking trail as best I could. It took hours. But I found it. The place. Exactly as it had appeared in the painting. The cliff was real and the same. The rocks. The curve of the waterfall. Even the trees, gnarled and reaching, like they were still holding their breath. I stood at the edge, the painting clutched in my hands. It felt heavier than ever. Cold, even in the sun. Like it knew. The wind stirred suddenly, harsh and biting. The sky above darkened slightly, as if clouded not by weather, but by memory. I set the painting down. Uncapped the lighter fluid and soaked the canvas until it dripped. I struck a match. Dropped it onto the frame. The fire roared to life, louder than it should have. Crackling like bones. A high, keening sound pierced the wind. Not from the fire. From within it. As if the painting screamed. The canvas twisted and blackened, devoured by flame. I stood there until nothing but ash remained. Then I knelt. Scooped it up, handful by handful, and scattered it into the wind over the cliff's edge. The moment the last of it drifted into the trees, the wind stopped. A stillness settled. Deep and absolute. And then, as I turned to leave. Just before my foot left the dirt path. I heard it. Faint. Barely more than a breath. A woman's voice. "Thank you." I never bought another painting. Not even a poster. The apartment walls are bare now, pale, empty, unadorned. It's quieter these days. Not just in sound, but in feeling. A kind of stillness that doesn't press on your chest or whisper from the corners. A stillness that feels clean. Lived in. Safe. No more late-night wind rustling through a sealed room. No more phantom cries threading through the silence. No more sorrow caught between brushstrokes. But something stays with me. Not fear. Not even guilt. Awareness. I've come to understand something that no one ever tells you. Some artwork isn't just meant to be seen. Some pieces aren't just pigment in canvas. They carry things. Grief. Memory. Longing. Souls that don't want to be forgotten. And if their story was never heard, if their ending was never given a voice, they wait. And sometimes, they find a way in. Into a home. Onto a wall. Into your quietest hours. All it takes is one glance. One careless moment of admiration. So now, whenever I pass a garage sale or a thrift shop and see something beautiful, a painting, a sculpture, a carved little box with no name, I pause. And I wonder, is this something to admire? Or something trying, aching, to be heard? And if you ever find yourself staring too long at something that stares back, ask yourself, what story is it still trying to tell? And do you want to be the one who listens?